Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to chat with you guys a little bit about something to where I'm going to admit that I was wrong on a position for a few years, okay? When I look at the weight of the evidence, I set my own personal ego aside, my own biases aside. I think I was incorrect, okay? And when I say that I was incorrect, that also means that I'm even willing to adjust some of my own training, what I'm doing personally. And that is the idea that squatting to parallel or just below parallel, like a power lifter, is enough. You know, I've kind of defended that position with the caveat, well, number one, it will build the most muscle in theory because we're using the most muscles through the body, all right? We're using a more posterior chain and hip extension and not just quad, which in theory would be true, except that we're going to use other exercises to train those, you know. That would be great, other than I also do deadlifts and reverse hypers and things, thus kind of invalidating that, all right? Let's admit that, number one. Number two, I used to always throw the caveat out, well, if knee angle is the same, then the wide stance and the power squat, blah, blah, blah. Okay, that's well and good. But when we're trying to just get to parallel, what are we doing? We get to parallel as the benchmark, and usually if we're trying to squat the biggest number possible, what are we doing? We're trying to minimize that knee travel, right? We're trying to keep the vertical shank, which I've often promoted. It's what we want to do with box squats. It's what Winning promoted. Winning still promotes all these things. And he's even said stuff that, you know, Paula Quinn, before he died, told him in private he thought he was right. Maybe Paula Quinn really had that conversation. I don't know. I don't know if it really happened. I don't know if Winning's just marketing and saying that. Or maybe Winning is really being truthful and that conversation happened. I don't know. None of us can really verify that. So I don't know that I like to take that as a huge degree of evidence. And it's not because, I think the guy's not telling the truth. He very well could be, so I don't want to accuse that. But we don't know that he is. We never always know what someone's motives are. We can't. So I'm going to kind of go with, the weight of the evidence. But we come over to the point. We do all that so we can lift the most weight, and we do that by making it the easiest joint angle on the quads. Okay? Biggest muscle involved, right? All right, well and good if our goal is to squat the biggest weight possible. What about if our goal is to build quads? What if we're trying to build muscle? If we're trying to build even rate of force production and strengthen the legs? Because strength we could define it as a 1 rep max if all other factors are equal, right? But what factor have we made equal? Reaching parallel in that case for, specifically a powerlifting squat, which can be done in a manner that uses the least knee bend. If we're tactical about it and go with that method. But we come back over to that point of the caveat I always said, well, the quad growth will be the same if knee angle is equal, but it can't be equal. It can't be equal, can it? When we're intentionally avoiding getting it deep. We're literally going out of our way to do that. All right, so here's the problem then when we come back over to hypertrophy. And this is where, again, I'm going to have to step back and eat some crow and say, at least I covered myself with that caveat I threw in, which technically made myself correct in theory, but in practice, it's bullshit. I, in theory, gave myself an out that I'm going to have to admit is purely an out to use logic. It's not a practical out. It won't actually work in the real world because that's not what we're doing with that type of squat. We're intentionally avoiding doing exactly what the caveat is. So get the knee angle. Why does this matter? Because that's what's going to cause the most quad growth. almost all available literature. And I want to admit, exercise science is really a mess. There's so many conflicting studies. There are so cult-like followings with bad research that have huge followings of people who have bad research, who have a lot of control because people are scared to cross them, who just basically do research to put out their own books and stuff. I'm not going to get into all that. There's a lot of bad research. But what the research does seem to show pretty consistently, when it is looked at carefully, lengthened positions seem to have the most potential for muscle growth. All right, with quads and any sort of squat, because there's no active insufficiency involved near the bottom, we have the quad in the greatest lengthened position the deeper the knee is bent. Okay, period. Therefore, all available evidence says we should do that if our goal is to get our quads as big and as strong as possible. Because again, strength being affected largely by myofibrillar growth, right? Larger contractile proteins. Well, that's what creates it. So therefore, in theory, that would carry over to more squat strength than even doing the partial squat that we're doing and calling a power squat. Why? Because we still increase the potential for force production. So even if we wanted to compete that way, doesn't mean we need to train that way. Because if we want to maximize the strength of the primary movers, we need to maximize myofibrillar growth. That means lengthen positions. So in short, if you want big ass quads, you need to squat deep. Put it in layman's terms. What do you see me doing now? I'm doing full squats, narrow stance, knees forward, deep. I am stretching my quads as far as I can. I'm working on trying to get it better. Even some pause work in there, even going over to weightlifting shoes to make sure I do that. Note, I am not saying stand on plates. Do not do that. It's dangerous and it's stupid. If you need the heels elevated, get shoes for it. They make shoes, they're not that expensive. I'm wearing my Adidas ones right now. Get them for less than $100 on Amazon, okay? Don't stand on the plates to do it, please. Again, that's idiotic. If you do it, you're a dumbass. I'm just going to call everybody out on that. I said it. Get over it. You're a dumbass. Quit doing it. Quit showing people to do it. Just get the shoes. All right. We need to stretch the quads. We need that lengthened position if we want big jacked quads. And the only way to do that practically is letting the knee shift forward by squatting deeper as well. Okay, it's not just about the parallel, it's getting as deep as our structure will allow. Okay, and it's a much deeper squat to even reach parallel with the knees sliding forward. Okay, because again, that parallel is kind of arbitrary, isn't there? There's a whole lot of other biomechanics that affect where it is. But it shouldn't be our standard, and I will say the same thing to the people who point that out. Well, it's just a powerlifting standard. It does need to be our standard. You're right. Because if you're not going to power lift, you should probably be squatting a lot deeper than that if you're trying to get big jack quads. If you're squatting above that, you're probably wasting your time. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys next time.